So if you have your homework today, you hand it in, you got like bonus points. What is this? Must be attendance from the class. Anybody know what was the class?
Wasn't here Friday, the university sanctioned event that I was at. I just don't think that they got an email out to my Friday classes about it.
How about you forward that email back to me?
I don't have the email. I don't think they sent it out, because I was told that they didn't send it out to everybody, and I don't know if you
Can you talk to me about that? Probably could get a letter or get your.
Yeah, I can get one of my instructors to send you something.
Yeah, I can contact you. It's just not a small.
You asked to put it.
After the class is better.
Kind of evidence. You got my service number?
Yeah, they did? Okay. Talk after the class. Okay. Okay, this coming Friday, there will be a presentation. Is that a drink, like, is that water? Could you remove it, please? Yes. Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it. Whatever, yeah, you could put it out there, I think they would appreciate it. So this coming Friday, we have presentation. It'll be Tyra. Good to see you. Thank you. Hang on time. Zero and Jackie. Jackie's not here. Shamika. Shamika's not here. That is Adam. Oh, just call your name. So you'll be presenting on Friday. I think I've gone over what to do, all that, right? Did y'all get my email this weekend? See, people never check email. You should check email. Some of you use your Gmail, all that, and you miss a lot of good things, like I said sometimes. So go back and look at the announcement. When I send the announcement, I also send out email. It's automatic.
What was the email about?
Okay, very good question. The email is about the hints and tips for your presentation. Okay, which I've gone over, I think, 2 times in this class, and then I realized the other class I never told them anything, so I've done, I thought I have said something. Okay, so let's finish up this chapter. There is a video that you could watch, okay, like how students present it. And on that day, everybody should be present because that's a day that your attendance are multiplied 3 to 5 times. How? Because you write peer review, you will get up to maximum 3 points for writing peer review. Also, if you ask questions, you also get points. So don't be absent because you're not presenting. So yeah, a lot of times students ask me, how do I, especially this class, how do I get my extra credit? These are the days that you earn a lot of extra, well, not extra credits, in class. Yes.
You said so if we write down and ask questions, we get extra credit on the presentation?
No, I'm going to pass this around, okay? It's a peer review. You write peer review about 1 person presentation. So 5 people will be presenting. Snap a picture of this. A lot of you read page 1. Unfortunately, it runs out, it goes to page 2. So be sure you read page 2. I'm going to pass this one more time. Can I give you the attendance sheet here? So look at it again to answer your questions. On that day, you write a peer review on one of the presenters only. You get to choose. Do not give me multiple choice. Do not write all 5. You pick one and write one, half a page, actually 5 to 6 sentences, constructive criticism. I'll give you more on that day. I'll tell you a little bit more. But show up. And if you ask questions, you also get points on that day. So these are the days that, talking about, where all the extra credit, there it is, last chance. Because after that, on the final exam day, by the way, there's a final exam day. Chris or Vince, can you look at page 2, tell me what's the final exam day?
Final exam day is December 9th at 8 a.m.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down. Thank you. Is it 8 a.m.? Okay. Set your alarm clock. I don't care what it is. You got to see it. And that's my last chance, absolutely. to try to give you anything that I want to give you, and I do want to
Is
give you
that-
something.
Is that like, cause we don't have like actual final exam?
I understand, that's why I'm
That's
gonna
what I'm
get,
asking, like, is there gonna be like a test on it there?
I
or
will
something?
explain it,
Oh, okay.
it's coming up. So on that day, please show up, there will be, I will ask you a question, then you need to type your answer in one page, not more than one page, and that's it, because you have to show up on the final exam day, I have to give you something. Although there's no final exam as is like, you have to study everything from, you know, all the chapters, cumulative, typically I ask students just to relax and get a good night of sleep, come and as you are, unless you have a dumb attack, which had never happened in my last 10 years of teaching. Yeah, dumb attack means suddenly you don't know what to do, you know, like, whoa, what do I do? You know, you get attacked by dumbness.
I had that all the time.
Right, that doesn't happen, so just show up and, if you don't show up, you basically don't get there, and that will be added to your, homework assignment, goes to that 20%, yeah. Yes,
I got a question.
please,
Alright, what if you got caught on that day?
I'm sorry?
I got caught on that day.
You have to show me evidence beforehand, yeah,
Alright, I'll bring it to you.
okay, please, that would be very important, yeah, because you have to show up, yes,
Did you say write or type the one-page response?
type,
Okay.
type. Good grammar, everything, good reading, show that you can write in front of me instead of having writing center next to you. So that's the idea. So just show up that day. It's my last chance to give you what I want to give. Yes.
So can we write a peer review per day, or is it just one peer review out of all 5 days?
No, one peer review. Very good question. One
Sorry.
peer,
3 days. 3 days. I'm sorry.
4 days,
4 days.
except for the day that you're presenting. So you have 4 chances.
Yes.
To maximize. Some student only want one, you know, I don't know why, yes.
So yeah, we can write a peer review.
Yes.
Okay.
Up to 4 times, because you have 5 days. On the day that you're presenting, you're not writing peer review. Everybody got it? On the day that you're presenting, you're not writing the peer review. Right. And you're not writing on everybody, you know, you get to pick, if you want to write Rocky's presentation, okay, go ahead. You don't have to write everybody, so you get to pick, but if you write all 5, I will do the first one, I'll cancel all the rest. Because you leave me no choice, you know, you force me to choose, you're supposed to choose. So, yeah, and no, most students don't have problem. That's my so-called giveaway. Last chance, as much as possible, as much as I like to. So, show up. And especially the first time student are presenting, I give a lot of tips on that day. So anyway, go back to that email message, I have some tips there. The paper, did I tell you how many pages?
2.
It's not funny. So 45 pages, okay?
I thought you.
You
I
did
thought
say
you-
2
you
though.
You did bring it
You
down to
changed
2
it
to
from
3.
4 to 5 to 2 to 3.
Yeah,
I did?
yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I mean, we ain't lying.
You said 2 to
See, she
3.
talking
Let me see something. This must be a different one. For I see, the original one was 45. Okay, 2 to 3. You probably don't even need 8 PowerPoint slides. You probably need 6 maximum. I should scale it down. But okay, if I say 2 to 3, so be it.
Did anybody else get? When did you send your email? Because I didn't get it.
Yeah, I checked it last night. I didn't get
Yeah. Are you sure
Really?
you sent it out? Yeah.
Nobody
I
got
literally
it?
just. Yeah. Checked
Yeah, I'll
it.
send it again when I get back to my room. So I believe I sent it yesterday by posting it as a announcement.
But
And
it
I,
still comes through like as an email though, even if you post it.
right, that's right, yeah. If I click something, it could be it's on the announcement, but maybe I didn't click that thing that say, right. So, now, how many of you are business students? Okay, very good. Listen to me very carefully. On that day of on your presentation day, if you dressed up professionally, like you go to an interview, when you do your presentation, you get your passport credits as well. But if you don't dress up, you come in jeans and shorts and t-shirt, you don't get it. Okay, so most students are like that. A lot of times students come back later and say, what about it? I say, I don't think you dress up that day, so you don't get it. So
Taylor.
that's one way to get your
Down.
passport credit, yes,
Uh,
for business
do-
student.
If we're not a business student, do we get extra credit if we dress?
I mean, I was thinking it too.
You don't have to say yes, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay, I'll say yes, yeah, to be fair, yeah.
Wait, what happened?
Well, repeat back to her, and I need to get started so we can finish this, yeah. So it doesn't apply to you, Haley, you're a business student, so. Chris is, music major,
Yes.
okay. Very good. Let me go ahead and finish this up. So the last thing you saw was a park, like that. So we're talking about public good versus, private good, and on Wednesday, our next class will meet at the lab for that I was gonna say 2 chapter, there's only 1 chapter test left, okay? So here's your chance to do well because you only study for 1 chapter. So Wednesday, we have a chapter test, everybody, if you're not doing well, please, by all means, get to the tutor or use my office hour, I'll be glad to show you your test, and unfortunately, not many students have used the tutor service. From what I could see, you need to do that more often. This is the last chance, okay? And Wednesday, I'll tell you even more about your presentation. But today, I gotta finish it so we can do our test.
What day is the quiz on?
Wednesday, next class, yes. And I think you wanna talk to me, so after 2:30 is good, cause I have a meeting right after the class, yeah. Okay, so some of the advantages of using, remember I mentioned public good is beneficial to provide because, by the government, not by the private entity, because basically the marginal cost of providing a public good, a lot of time, it's 0 after certain unit. Like for example, if you build a bridge, right, you start to collect some tolls. When people, any car that cross the bridge. So if you collect this kind of tolls and, after 1 million cars have passed, you collected enough, or after 2 years, you would have recouped your cost of building the bridge already. So what's the point of keep collecting? Marginal cost would be 0. For-profit organization, they want to maximize the profit, so they might just continue to collect. But if you're government, you basically, you have collect taxes, and your function is to serve the people, so you don't have so much incentive to try to charge. You might as well make it for free. So that's the argument behind the economic principle that why public goods should be provided for free. Although there are some, exception. And we talked about various types of taxes the other day. Remember proportional? Anybody remember? Give it back to me. Go back to your notes. Tell me what form of taxes that we have talked about. 3 types.
Proportional tax and progressive tax.
Okay, progressive and proportional and regressive tax. Very good. Or the flat or head tax. Flat amount, $100. Okay, so we say that there's advantage of government providing public good because, hey, no problem. They already have IRS set up so they could just collect the tax. It's not an additional cost there. And also we say that, like the example we look at between Prentice and Wilson, if you missed last class, it's your responsibility to catch up because I see some of you are like, what's she talking about? So, because in this class. Okay. So remember Prentice and Wilson, they were fighting to say who should pay what kind of tax should be imposed for them to pay. So then if government were to collect it, then you take care of it. You don't have to worry about what's the burden of tax between Chris and Vince, 20, 80, 30, 70, 40, 60, 50, 50, or what. Okay, and it may be the only feasible provider sometimes. Although there are some other choices, so that was the advantages. There are disadvantages of using our government to provide public good, and we all very familiar with that. One size fits all. So it doesn't necessarily all the times work, but public good is public good. Many people may oppose mandatory taxation. Yeah, tax is not a very popular thing, especially before the election. Government are not the only exclusive providers of public good. So yeah, you heard of park and that or schools that are named after certain individuals' names, and usually they're named after the big donors, right? The university hall, for example, they name it after somebody's name, and usually the person whose name is the big donor, give a donation. So there is such a thing called private provisions of public goods. We see that a lot of time libraries or even parks or the university dormitories are named after private name. So yes, there are some other alternative of providing public good. You could use funding by donation, and that's what I was talking about. You could develop a new means to exclude non-payers. This is very interesting. One good example I could think of is, remember one of the definition for what is public good and private good is whether it's excludable or not, right? If you could exclude people from paying for it. For example, I gave the example for private good, a cheeseburger. If you sit at McDonald's eating a cheeseburger, that's a private good. Someone come up to you and grab that burger, you have a right to take it back, right? Because that's a private good, you paid for it. If a homeless person who cannot afford a hamburger come up to you and just grab it from you, and said, it's my burger, because he simply cannot afford it, so you cannot exclude non-payers from enjoying it. Example would be, so therefore we call it a private good. A private good, you could exclude people because they have to pay to get it. But public good is like I said, if you have a public, what's the New York Times, you put up a screen there, everybody could watch, you don't have to pay to watch, but so it's not excludable. People who don't pay for it can also watch. September 11, the police and the firefighters that are maintaining the law and order on that day, any tourists who are non-American citizens can enjoy the service. They're not going to say to them, hey, excuse me, you're tourists from wherever, Germany, and you didn't pay your tax in this country, so therefore we're not going to protect you. No. You cannot exclude people for public good. The example being here, the firefighting service and the policeman service on September 11th. So, anyway, develop a new means to exclude non-payers. I could think of it as like cable TV. How sometimes you hear people trying to steal from the cable company because there are ways that you could do it. I'm not trying to encourage you, but there are ways out there that people could steal from the cable company by just buying a device that you could scramble and descramble the signals, So if the cable company comes up with something, a better technology to try to beat those people, then you could exclude the non-payers from enjoying the service. And make it private instead of public, because cable companies want to make money as well. Private contracting, this is very common with, for example, like trash collection in your neighborhood, in your community. A lot of time they have to bid, they have to send in their bids to the municipal office and say, well, we want to collect the garbage, in this area, this community, and could we get a contract? So there's some competition going on. So they could provide so-called public goods as well through private contracting. Sales of byproduct. This one, it's very familiar to most of you. If you have TV at home, you watch primetime TV shows. I mentioned the other day that a lot of time, just before the big shows comes on, you have all sorts of commercials. What kind of commercials? Used to be soap, detergent, and I think it's still like that today, like shampoo and that sort of thing. So yeah, Procter & Gamble is trying to sell their products, what about Saturday morning? We know that Saturday morning they show a lot of cartoons to kids, right? How many of you have watched Saturday morning cartoons? Okay. You know what I'm talking about? What kind of commercials are they showing?
Cereal.
Toy
Yep.
commercials.
Toys, kids cereal, Cheerios, and all that. You know, yeah, that's it. That's what it is. You know, that they are trying to use the advertisement. This is called sale of byproducts. Okay, let's look at this example. In this example, first of all, we want to look at what is a loss in economic surplus. Because essentially, we come back to that problem. From chapter 1 all the way to now, we said the goal of the, any given economy is to maximize total economic surplus, right? Consumer surplus plus producer surplus. So in this case, if you start off with free, if you provide pay-per-view, let's just say for free. Okay, so free would be down here because you don't pay a price, you draw the line here. If it is free, you will have 20 million households who want to watch it. But if you start charging, let's say $10 per episode, then it will be down to half of it, which is 10 million. So then we say the difference here is this triangle right there. That aquamarine triangle there is the loss in economic surplus. And we can certainly calculate that. Again, same thing. If I ask you to calculate that, that would be half base times height. So your base is $10 and this is 10 millions. So half of that will be 50 millions. Let's see, okay, so right. So if you charge a fee, you have 10 million. And if you don't charge a fee, we call that you just broadcast a TV like a public show. No fee is being charged, then the marginal cost of additional viewers will be zero. So we talked about that before. That then you get 20 million viewers. Difference is this triangle there, and you calculate that should be about 50 million. Because remember, this is 10. Half of 10 is 5. 5 times 10 millions. So you got 50 million, see? So I want you to pay attention to that triangle. So this is what we call the so-called bad triangle, right? It has a special name. What's that special name? Anybody remember?
Dead weight loss.
Dead weight loss. Very good. Now, is there a way that we can minimize this loss? How would you, graphically speaking, how would you minimize that triangle? Yes.
Drop the cost closer to free.
Okay, that's very good. I like that answer. I never thought about it that well. Let's think about it. Okay, that's an excellent answer. So if you drop it, say, to $1, then the triangle becomes smaller and smaller. Very good. It's one other way. By moving that demand curve. How? Think of elasticity. Is that going to be more elastic or less elastic? If you want to minimize it. Okay. I have a ruler here. Let's use this piece of paper. So what if I move that demand curve to make it stand up more inelastic, so like that. Okay, so this is my line, green line. So if I do like that, it becomes more inelastic. You notice that triangle becomes much, much smaller, right? Yeah, so that's one way to minimize it as well. But if you do like that, more flat, you actually carve out more areas of the triangle. Yes?
What you said to make it more inelastic.
Inelastic, yes.
And you did what with that piece of paper?
Well, this piece of paper represents the line.
Yeah, representing the line, okay.
So you make it stand up a little bit more, like I could draw a line here. If I do that,
Oh,
then
so
the
you-
triangle will become
So
smaller.
you talking about that line?
Right, the demand
Okay,
curve.
the demand curve, all right.
The green line, right. Any other questions? Okay, very good. So one way to figure out this, to try to minimize that weight loss, and Chris, that was a very good example, that is you lower the fee, make it close to being free. You are thinking, so that's very good. Another way is to make that demand curve more inelastic. Yes, question?
But the dead weight loss in this example is all money that you would gain from commercials, right?
No, dead weight loss means basically it's a loss that you cannot recover. It's known as a social loss, so you cannot recover it back. So what this means is that you could have earned more, but then because you charge a fee, so there's this dead wage loss that's unrecoverable. It's a social loss. Now, economists measure that. We say we could measure it in terms of dollar value. Okay, this social loss.
So you're not looking from the firm's perspective,
From what?
from the TV channel's
Now,
perspective.
if you look at the no, not from the TVs. Right, good question. So because when you want to maximize total economic surplus, what is total economic surplus? There are two components to it.
Consumer
Producer.
surplus.
Right.
Producer surplus.
So you look at it from the whole society viewpoint now. Both the consumers as well as the producer, not just the producers alone or the consumers alone. Because now you are kind of like a government, you're policy maker. You look at the whole thing, you say, how can I benefit the society? Okay, so another example here, this is imposing a tax on a car. So let's just say that your demand curve is typical downward sloping, your supply curve is flat or perfectly elastic. So if that's the case, right, the cost of car, if it is say, what is it, 20,000, this is 20 and this is 1,000. If the price of a car is 20,000, then there's 6 million, demand and supply, equilibrium would be about 6 million. So what if you raise the tax on the supply side? Okay, so this is your supply curve, it goes up by tax amount. So now it's 22,000. So you know that if it is 22,000, if all the tax are being borne by the consumers, in this case it is, the tax amount is from 20 to 22, so that's 2 or 2,000. So if you impose a tax of 2,000, you would expect the number, quantity demanded and supply, or the equilibrium quantity to go down. So from 6 million to 4 millions now. So what this is saying is that by imposing tax, and this is nothing new, we've been saying it from day one, anytime there's some sort of government intervention by imposing a tax, then you have a dead wage loss. Again, this green part, and in this case, that dead wage loss is mostly the consumer surplus. So that would answer your question. Not producer surplus, because the producer supply curve is flat. So in this case, consumer actually bear 100% of the burden, the tax burden, that is. Okay, so what this is saying is that, you got 4 million people and then you have this bad triangle there. So therefore, anytime that you have a bad triangle there, we call it inefficiency. Inefficiency means that you're not achieving that socially optimal level. In other words, if you don't impose taxes, it's better. In this example, really, it's all that it is saying. So, but not to discount all the taxation, because then, there's no tax. Then where do we get public good? The next time you go out there's no highway, because nobody pays tax. The government cannot support by, from your tax revenue, by providing public education, public park, libraries, and so on, or the roads and highway. Okay, so go back to that same concept. Charging a positive price for a good whose marginal cost is zero will reduce the economic surplus. We already know that. Because anytime you could carve out that bad triangle, you are being in inefficiency. The more elastic the demand, the greater the loss in economic surplus. That should be very clear from the example we look at, right? So we said that if we make the line stand up, okay, Andrew's your question. If we were to make that line, demand curve, stand up a little bit more like a stick, then we actually would cut down that bad triangle. So that's kind of like a clue to us that, okay, so if you want to reduce total the dead wage loss, it's good that you impose a tax on the good that is inelastic to minimize that dead wage loss. That's the gist, that's the essence. I just said it. Okay, I will repeat it again. So if you want to try to cut down the dead wage loss, you will impose a tax, if you have to impose a tax at all. So impose it on the good that has inelastic demand, such as, what are some of the goods that have very inelastic demand? We've gone through so many examples. You drive to work every day, right? So you have to stop by someplace to fill in something before you get here, if it is out. What is that? Gasoline, yes. Inelastic. Because if it goes up, you still would have to pay and put in, unless it goes up to like $5 per gallon. And you might want to switch to motorcycles or your Harley Davidson or moped, yeah. Bicycle, a skateboard, if you could go that far. I don't know where you live. Okay, so here it is. Why do we have regulation? This is the kind of like policy-making questions. We have regulation because government a lot of time do that because of externality. Okay, like good externality and bad externality. The good one are healthcare, education, we talked about it, flu shots, vaccinations, things like that. Even students, one time, I think that was during the spring, a few years back, one of my students, ECN Lane student, that was like during March, where there was a lot of hay fever, like tree pollen was like blowing everywhere. So a lot of people are having problems with hay fever or sneezing, in class. And he brought in a box of Kleenex. And that was like so good, I said, wow, that is what we call positive externality. An activity that should be pursued more, but people don't do it as much. They should. Who's thinking like unselfishly about everybody, Education subsidization. So things like that, we should subsidize it. But if things that cause negative externalities, such as pollution, could be environmental pollution, it could be a noise pollution. Your roommate keep talking on the cell phone in your dormitory room. Well, there's that negative externality. What do we do? Well, I know there's not a fine that say you cannot talk in your dormitory room with your cell phone. But there is a rule that says you cannot smoke in the dormitory room. Same thing. So what do? Then you impose a tax or penalties or a toll. So like students texting in class, that's a negative externality because really it just distracts professors and everybody. So if we impose a fine and say, well, yeah, let's bring in a big cookie jar. If you caught your friend, people who sit right next to you texting, make them pay $1. So at the end of the semester, we could have a party or something. So that, we call that negative externality. You correct it by imposing tax. Okay, or if it is a good one, a positive externality, you would subsidize it. Free flu shot. Yeah, all the time. Free education, free healthcare. Well, to some extent, yeah. Okay, so definition and enforcement of property right. We talked about it in previous chapter and said, well, that is important, yeah. Okay, could we enforce some sort of zoning laws? Could we have some kind of control or monitor over this water territory? Sometimes it's not possible, but by establishing this private property rights, it solves some problem. Tragedy of the commons, for example. How many of you have been to Australia, New Zealand? Okay, I was there in can't tell you the year then, how old I am. Yeah, so I was there some years ago, more than 20 years ago. Actually, more than 30 years ago. I was a teenager, so I went to New Zealand in the South Island. They have North and South Island, with his lighthouse, And this is a phenomenon. You could check on the website. I don't know what's the name of it. That South Island, the southernmost tip of the island. is a lighthouse that you could stand by the lighthouse and look out the ocean. You see a very clear line. On the right-hand side is green, all the water is green. On the left-hand side, all blue. You could clearly, even taking a picture, you see that territory line. So what caused it is what's underneath, the bed, maybe there's a big drop or whatever, I forgot what was the reason. So I say that just to say that a lot of time the water don't have a boundary. You cannot really establish a clear property line. So therefore we have Pirates of the Caribbean. Talk about it. Okay, next we want to talk about, what are some of the functions of government? You know that we have federal government, we have state government, and we have local government. And a lot of time if you have, the advantages of having a state or local government is so that they will address the needs of their state, because you cannot have this one size fits all. In North Carolina we have tobacco, for example, unique as compared to other states. We have not legalized marijuana yet. The other states have legalized it, and so on and so forth. So different needs here. Better communication and response to the citizens. Local choices will reflect the unique preferences of the residents. So, sometimes it's good to have a state or local government so that it will address the very unique needs of the people in that state, in that area. Advantages of federal government, once again, you got economies of scale, defense spending. You have U.S. Army. I don't think you have North Carolina Army. Anybody saying that? Why? And why? Because there's this thing called economies of scale, same thing on National Guard. But you do have local police enforcement. You do have a local troopers, for each county. So they take care of the specific areas. So one of the advantages of having a federal government is because, once again, we have this positive and negative externality. Like education, for example. If you give subsidized education in one state, you also subsidize in another state. And then you have this federal grants that you could apply for your financial aid. So it's some sort of economies of scale. You don't have to have each state set up something. For example, Medicare, right? How many, you heard about Medicare? So Medicare is a free health care for people who are 65 years old and above. And then you have this thing called Medicaid. Okay, so this is more like for income level, people who are off the income level below certain poverty line. And I think if you have kids about 6 years old, certain age limit, you could also qualify for Medicaid. You could also combine, if you're old, more than 65 years old, you're also poor, then you could have both. For now, right now, the Medicaid, the first one, is being administered by the federal government. In the case of Medicaid, it's been administered by each state because of the various needs. And certain states get more from the federal government. For example, the more poorer states like West Virginia, anybody from West Virginia? The Deep South, as compared to the northeastern states like Boston area, Maine, all that, Rhode Island. So you get more money from a poorer state. So federal government dish out more for Medicaid for some of the states. Some of you have heard about this term, pork bearer spending. How many of you have heard about it? Okay, some of you have. So what this means is that a lot of time you spend the public money to the extent that it's the waste. That you are, we could just read it. A public expenditure that's larger than the total benefits included, but it's favored by a legislator because his or her constituencies benefit from an expenditure by more than their share resulting extra tax. I think I'll give example that way you know. So what this is saying in a nutshell is, like if you have, before I give example, is another definition, block rolling. This is basically means that if legislators support each other, especially in their specific legislative proposals, a lot of time they do favor for each other. That's what this is saying. So that's called lock rolling. And they're willing to do it because the time will come that I need your help. So I do you this favor now. Next time you remember me, you vote yes for me. So here's an example, a congressional district with 100 taxpayers. Okay, the local representative delivers a project that creates 100 million in benefit and costs 150 million. So remember the number. Okay, the benefit of having a project, it could be a roller coaster park in Pembroke, for example. Okay, we calculate that it's 100 millions in benefit, but it costs 150 million. Remember, you got 100 districts out there. So the district basically share the cost. So what it is, you take 150 million, the cost, total cost divided by 100 to get 1.5 million. So that's the cost for each district. But then the economic surplus to district residents, basically what this is saying is, yes, you got 100 districts there, but usually, in this case, only one district benefits out of it. Because the roller coaster is going to be right here in Pembroke. It's not going to be all over the place. You got one in Loringburg, you got one here, Fairview, no. Just going to be here in Pembroke. So, okay, they share the cost, but then the benefit is only to the people, to the district that gets it, like Pembroke, for example. So then then you take the benefits, which is 100 million, minus 1.5 million, what Pembroke, for example, in this case, the share of the cost is only a fraction. So you get a big economic surplus there. So that's what it means by pork barrel spending. So yeah, it's okay, Pembroke gets it this time, but then next time around, who knows? Loringburg might need a public school, and then you need your vote to help them to vote for it. So lock rolling means it's a political term. It's also an economic term that, you do favor for each other. So here's another economic term known as rent seeking. So these are good key terms that you could use when you search for your articles, do your article summary. This is a socially unproductive efforts of people or firms to win a prize. Well, it's sort of like what I just said, like if you try to bid for a project like a roller coaster to come to Pembroke, and maybe Lumberton also wants to bid the same, who gets it? So then you have inefficiency because the gains from a government program are concentrated in the hands of a few beneficiaries. So again, go back to this roller coaster example. Pembroke gets the benefit, but not Lumberton, because I don't think you can build a roller coaster so big that, it spans between Pembroke and Lumberton. No, right here, this is where it is. The costs are spread among many, but then the benefit is only accrued or concentrated in one district alone. So that's called rent seeking. You could apply it to firm, you could apply it to people, you could also apply it to government. So for example, look at the price of sugar. Let's say there's a price support bill. Let's say we'll raise the sugar price by 10 cents per pound. That doesn't seem much, right, to you, to most people. 10 cents per pound, what is it? But look at this, the average American consumes 100 pounds of sugar per year. Wow, did you know that? And that's average. Demand of sugar is inelastic. If the price goes up, I don't think you say, well, I'm not gonna have pumpkin pie just because the price go up by 10 cents. You still will consume as per normal, right? And just like the gasoline price, same thing. Well, demand for gasoline. So we give you that demand for sugar is inelastic. And then the outcomes of this whole thing is consumer expenditure on sugar will increase by less than $10 a year. Maximum is 10. You get 10 cents times that 100 pounds, you get that $10 per year. Revenue to the sugar industry will increase by $1 billion a year. No wonder industry will lobby in its favor. Okay, how do I get that $1 billion? That's kind of hard to explain. You could go back to what we do is we look at a general household. You got about 230 to 300 million population in this country, and then we divide it by 3 roughly. 3 is the average household size, and then you get maybe X number of household, 100 million, I think it's 100 million, and then so that's how you come up with that 1 billion right there per year. So what this is saying is that, yeah, sugar industry would lobby and say, yes, have the price goes up, but people don't care, they support it because it doesn't affect them as much. So look at who is Milton Friedman. He's a famous economist. He said that no bureaucrat will spend taxpayers' money as carefully as those taxpayers themselves would have spent, and we agree. Government employees do not always face strong incentive to get the most of what they spend. If you look at countries like Russia or communist countries especially, when they spend money, there are countries that are very rich. For example, Brunei. I know the king, his palace, his bathroom, everything is gold-plated, including the commode, the sinks. So you might say, this is a waste, what are you doing? Because, in the case of government, they have to spend. Remember the consumption, you have to spend to generate GDP in your economy. And a lot of time, it's a waste. It's not benefiting the people, but benefiting just a few individuals. Private contractors often deliver comparable services at much lower cost. Yes, if you roll in these private contractors, they care about the cost, how much they spend, but the government doesn't care as much. Well, not as much because taxpayers' money. So we ask this question at the end, is it efficient to reduce government waste by reducing tax collection? The answer is no, we still need it because we need it to correct externality. Okay, objective of the tax is to raise enough revenue to finance public goods, and we need tax to correct externality, also minimize the size effects of the tax. So, is it time? Okay, let's see, I think I only have 2 more slides left. Yeah. So you can read the rest. So basically, this is the important one. Let me go over this. This one is the last slide I have. So this is the gist of this whole chapter here. Economic loss from a tax may be offset by surplus created from public goods sales. Because you provide public goods, so there's some total economic, you maximize the total economic sales. So we already know that, I talked about this a few times earlier. You can minimize the debt rate loss from a tax by taxing goods and services with an inelastic demand and supply. We asked this question on your test, so remember that. If the production creates some sort of externality, whether it's positive or negative, you could correct it by a tax or you could correct it by a subsidy. It would actually, in that case, increase economic surplus. So in other words, even though tax has its evil side, but it also has its advantageous side, despite the fact that it does causes debt weight. Okay, thank you very much for coming today, and I'll see you Wednesday.